Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 1 of this brewcast. And we're going to call it Beer Banter, where we're going to talk about beer, all kinds of beer, how it's made, what you like, what you don't like, what's trending, you name it. I am your host, Steve Johnson, and I love beer. Beer is a huge passion of mine. Any kind of beer you name, I like, especially stouts, porters. I like the dark beers. Um, all types of lagers are great. IPAs, they have their place, and I might even dabble in an NA every now and then. But I'm curious as what kind of beer you like. You can comment below, let me know, and we'll talk about it. Go on this journey with me, and we'll talk about beer. Now, I did say I like all kinds of beer. There's one kind of beer I like above all others, and that is free and cold. Other than that, if you put it in front of me, I'll probably try it. Now, everybody has a different story of their first beer. And a lot of nostalgia comes up when people talk about their first beer, who they had it with, who bought it for them, or who got it for them, or what flavor. But I will put my bottom dollar is that's probably all a bunch of BS, because your first beer that you probably ever had probably sucked. It was probably cheap. It was probably warm, and it probably wasn't as good as you thought. But your friends did it, your dad did it, your mom did it, who knows? And it was just, you were going to try something new. Now, my beer story, maybe some of you have similar stories. I'd like to know. But it started back when I was a little younger. And there was a fridge in the garage, and it had Cokes, Dr. Peppers, waters, and then it had a little tiny square at the top. That was the freezer section. And I mean, this beer fridge was yay big. It wasn't big at all. But at the top, there was always a couple silver cans in there. And that's always what Dad drank. And never really thought anything of it. So it wasn't anything. Well, one day I got curious, as young boys do, and I was like, "Hey, what's that? What are you drinking?" And he'd tell me, it's Dad's drink. It's Dad's juice. I was like, "Okay, well, can I have some? Can I try?" And, no, you can't have any. That's not for you. I'm like, but it's right next to what I drink. Why can't I have any? Well, long story short is eventually when Dad wasn't around, sorry, Dad, I went out there and I decided to try one of these Dad drinks. Crack that baby open, and like a Coke, I took a big old swig of it and spit it out because it was horrible. And I was like, why is he drinking this? This stuff is disgusting. And that was my first introduction. And I left it alone for a long time. I was like, well, that's horrible. I'm never going to drink that again. Why would he drink that? That's dumb. Dr. Peppers are way better. So I drank Dr. Peppers. Well, I get a little bit older. Friends having parties at their house. Going over there, no adults around. Someone has a 6-pack of their dad's drink or whatever, and we're like, okay, let's try it. Oh yeah, I've tried it. Oh, I've tried beer before. It's good. in my mind, I'm going, oh God, I don't want to try this crap again. But I got to be cool and be a part of the in crowd. And so I'm going to, submit to peer pressure and try this awful drink. I know that's awful again. And I do that, try to stomach it. You get that bitter beer face. Everybody gets the bitter beer face. But you're around your friends, you got to be all macho and all, man, I'm tough. I can drink this, and then when they're not looking, you want to spit it out or whatever. Well, so that goes on. And then I get older, and my friends were all hanging out, shooting pool, going to having house parties. We're about that age where it's okay that we're all going to be out drinking, you know. And then I've slowly acquired a taste for beer. It's usually the big brands that you can get your hands on. Being from Texas, there wasn't a ton of craft beers around at the time when I was starting my beer journey, and so it was the major three, Bud, Miller, Coors, and it was some version of that. I might have had a Mike's or a Doc Otis or whatever, hard lemonade style, and those were whatever, sweet, headache inducing. So went on, did that. Did all the social drinking stuff, played the beer pong, the quarters, the whatever, keg stands, all that good stuff, to enjoy my beer. However, that wasn't at the time. It was to just get a buzz, get drunk, hang out with your buddies, play some cards, whatever. And that's where it was at when in my early 20s. Get into my later 20s, got a decent job, kind of traveling around a little bit. Traveled to a town in northern Colorado called Estes Park. Estes Park is a mountain town. I'm sure plenty of you have heard of it. And I was doing work and I had a day off, and I went up there and driving around looking at the shops and all the taffy stores and ice cream joints or whatever, and grabbing a burger. And I was like, well, I'm gonna grab a beer. And it come out in this little boot, like not the big boots, but the little boot. And it was just a craft beer, a local beer. It's cold. Rule number one, passed for me. It was cold. It wasn't free, but it wasn't expensive. And I believe it was an IPA. It's been a while. I've had a few beers since then. But I believe it was an IPA, and it was delicious. Delicious. Loved it. Probably had another one while I was there. And then I was kind of hooked. So then I was like, ooh, I like this one. Let's see what else they have. Or next time I went to the beer store, I was like, oh, let's see what they got that's not, one of the big three, Miller, Coors, and Bud. So I slowly started integrating myself into the craft beer scene. And that was a fun time. It was I was trying everything, you name it. I went to tap houses, beer gardens, breweries, whatever, and got me some cold beer. So then, got a little older. Now we're in my 30s, and I was fully immersed in this craft beer scene. Any chance I could get, I'd sworn off the big brands, and I was like, I'm strictly going craft for everything. So turn of events, I ended up moving to Colorado, and I found out that there's a college up here that will give you a degree to make beer. I thought it was a joke, but once I found out it was extremely legit, I had to jump in head first and go and do this. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been drinking craft beer. I homebrew now. None of them are that good. I think I've made 1 out of 4, maybe two out of 10. I don't know, that were manageable. That were, hey, you want to try this? I'm kind of excited for you to try this beer. Um, but the rest of them, like, they ended up getting poured down the drain because they were horrible. But that's the business. That's the way it is. You gotta learn. You gotta learn somehow. So started doing all that. Taking classes now. Learning the science behind it, which is a lot of science. I never was a science guy. But beer turned me into a science guy. I really, really enjoy it. It's fun. It's exciting. Always learning something. So yeah, so that was in a roundabout way my little beer story. I do have to say, Pops, sorry I took some of your beers. I'll probably owe you a couple, maybe more than a couple, but I'll get you back. Don't worry. Um, so yeah, so that was my beer story. A very long, winding road to get to where I'm at, to get to what I love. Um, they always say, if it's a passion, then it's not work. And, you know, ever since I've started making beer, learning about beer, it's not a chore. It's fun. It's exciting. Something new every day. Um, I love the history behind it and everything. So I just want to share kind of my upbringing with you guys, to know, so you guys can know kind of where I come from. Um, if you're all for it and you want to tell me your story, go right ahead. Comment below and let me know. If you don't, that's fine. I don't care. You're here to learn with me, and hopefully you might learn something interesting yourself. Um, and on that note, I like to do this next little segment. It's gonna be a little bit more. This first time's a little bit more lax, little more grandiose. And it's gonna be this week in beer, but it's really gonna be like this past couple months in beer. Just kind of hone everything down. We'll talk about a little local stuff. Talk about some, um, and local to me would be Northern Colorado right now. We'll talk about some stuff it's on a bigger scale in the craft scene, and then we'll talk about some of the big guys, what they're doing. So this week in beer. All right. So locally, like I said, I'm here in Northern Colorado. There's a brewery that's out of Loveland called Verboten. Um, and they recently purchased a space in Fort Collins, which, if you're in the beer industry, you know that Fort Collins is one of, like, the craft hubs in the nation. And that's where this school is at. So, but Verboten, they opened a tap room in Fort Collins. It's at the old place where Black Bottle Brewery was at, and I'm excited. I've had Verboten; they make great beer. And now they got 2 spots open, and I'm always in Fort Collins for school, so you might see me in Verboten, drinking a nice pint. Another thing that's starting to happen, I've noticed, and this isn't just with locally, is consolidations. You have a brewery that might not be doing so well, or that might be struggling due to COVID, left over from that, or who knows. Just their market is, or their distribution's not the greatest. Who knows what it is. But they'll partner, they'll consolidate with another brewery, who will continue to make some of their beers and then they'll also help them make the new brewery's beers, and then they'll just merge, and you'll get kind of a larger brewery under one umbrella. And one of the things that's happening up here, one of the places that's doing it is Timnath Beer Works. Those guys, they're taking over, and they're with Snowbank, which is in Fort Collins. And Timnath and Snowbank, they're friends, and it was a good partnership. They just had their grand opening. Timnath just had their grand opening in Snowbank's old place a couple weeks ago. But they'll be doing the same thing. They'll be making their beers. They'll be making some of Snowbank's beers, and they'll expand the distribution area, and it'll just bring more craft beer to the area, and it won't. You're still going to be able to get some of those good Snowbank beers that they have. Crank and Brew, Snow Juice, I believe, is another one. So that's good. I mean, it sucks that Snowbank closes down, but at the same time, they're still going to get some of their beers out there, and you're still going to be able to get them. They're just going to be under a different banner now. Another brewery. So that's kind of on a micro scale. Let's go into a little bit of the bigger side of the craft beer scene. Is Great Divide and Dry Dock are doing something similar to where they're consolidating. Basically, Dry Dock is merging with the Great Divide, and they're going to form a partnership to where they're going to share tap houses, brew houses, and they're going to do a very similar thing to who was it? Timnath and Snowbank. So that's a good thing. And like I said, it gives some of the breweries that are struggling another avenue, another opportunity to get their beers out. I've been to tons of breweries where they make amazing beers, but their distribution sucks, or their marketing sucks, or a plethora of other things going on. They just can't get their name out there good enough, or they just are surrounded by a bunch of other great breweries that are more established, and that's just the name of the game, Luckily, everybody in the industry, especially up here in northern Colorado, they're all friends. They work with each other. Hey, I need a bag of this kind of malt. I need, this kind of yeast is, my shipment is late, whatever. And if they put that out there, they'll go help out, and they're more than willing to help out because, I mean, yes, that is their competition, but at the same time, it's only benefits the consumer, and that's you, that's me, we're the consumer. You want to drink good beer, I want to drink good beer, and in any way I can get a good beer on tap, I'm happy. If they merge, whatever, I don't care. Good beer is good beer. So then let's go into something interesting about the larger craft beer scene. Is the emergence of NAs. I feel like every major player in the craft beer scene has an NA now. Sam Adams, they all do. But there's one brewery out there that is just kicking butt and taking names, and that is Athletic. Those guys, they make only NA beers, and they're, I want to say, top 15, top 20 biggest craft beer breweries in the nation. That's super impressive, considering it's just NA. I've had a couple of their beers, and they taste great. Absolutely great. I've had their porter. I had their dark lager, their IPA, their pale ale. They're all good. They're all good beers. And if you're the type of person that's a little more health conscious, or you're doing dry January, you name it, these guys have a beer for you that you can drink with all your buddies. And if they're going to razz you about it, they wouldn't even know, because It looks like a beer, tastes like a beer, is a beer. Just NA. I don't know. But they're good. They're good. You can find them anywhere because they're becoming such a huge player in the craft beer scene that you can find them every liquor store I've gone to. For the most part, they all carry Athletic. So, which is cool. I'm super excited about it. It's just another option. It still gives the people that want to make craft beer an option. It gives people that want to drink craft beer another option. Um, and that's what it's about, is to grow this craft beer community and just another way out. And then let's talk about Boston beer. Sam Adams. Everybody knows Boston beer, Sam Adams. Those guys have been around for a while. They're huge. They're number one or number two, I don't know, in craft beer. But what is crazy about these guys is they are in the stock market, and their stock currently is sitting at $286 a share. That's wild. That just is wild to me, to think that a beer company is selling stock for almost $300 a share. There's companies out there that make widgets of all kind that they would be so grateful. They would make all their investors multi-millionaires if they could sell for $300 a share. If I owned a business and I could sell for $300 a share, there's a good chance I might have a fancy watch on. I don't know. But yeah, $300 a share for a beer company is outrageous. Outrageous. It's amazing. They have great quality. They distribute everywhere, nationwide, and they always have a great beer out, especially Oktoberfest. That's by far my favorite that they make. And then on one of the other big guys, Sierra Nevada. So they had a little sad news earlier in the year where their CEO, Jeff White, he stepped down. And it was kind of touch and go. Nobody really knew what direction that Sierra Nevada was going to go. But then when they finally announced the new CEO, which was Price Greenow, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. He's the new CEO. He come from, I believe, Beam Suntory, which bodes well for Sierra Nevada. He comes from a company that was quite a large company, a great marketing background, can really push this brand to new heights. And they make great beers. It's one of the classics, classic IPA. This Sierra Nevada brand is, you can like Boston beer, you name it, everywhere. You can find it anywhere, everywhere. You find it in restaurants, ballparks, you name it. Now, still got to talk about the big guys. One of the more unique things that happened out of the big beer brands, AB InBev and Corona Cero, they opened up in 10 European markets this year. And I know a lot of you are thinking, big beer, I want to support small, local, craft, all that stuff. AB InBev, they own a ton of breweries, probably some that you love that you don't know that are not craft beer anymore. But with them opening up in European markets, the unique thing about opening up in European markets, 10 to be exact, is it gets names out there. It gets our American craft beer out there. It gets our style of beer out there to the European market. We've all had Dunkels or you name it. All the different types of German beers, English bitters to uh, pilsners and stuff like that from overseas, and they're great, and I love them. It's nice to know that we're gonna send some of our stuff over there so they can love our stuff, and we can promote our beer style and our beer brands over there, and then they can experience what we get to experience all the time. So it's just another way to expand the world's horizons on beer. And to that end, I'm okay with it. It's totally fine. Now, lastly, I started off the episode with talking about my beer story and how I started drinking beer and what got me into it. And we are going to take a little journey, and I'm going to try a beer today. And it's going to be a beer that I first tried. This beer, it's been, I don't know, well over 20 years, 20, 25 years since I've touched one, let alone drank one. Some of you may have heard of it. And it's this guy. Yeah. That was beer number one for me. Probably made a bitter beer face with that guy. But today, for your enjoyment, I guess, I'm going to drink it again. And I'll let you know how I think it is today for me, and if my opinions of Keystone has changed or if it is still the same opinions. We'll find out. Some fun facts about Keystone. Started in 1989. And their slogan was bottled beer taste in a can. Now, imagine you go to the grocery store, the liquor store, whatever, and you buy whatever your favorite beer is, and on the box it says bottled beer taste in a can. Would that sway you to buy more of that beer or less of that beer? Back then, that was probably a great selling point, marketing strategy, whatever. Today, I would avoid that line wholeheartedly because that is a horrible marketing line. They've gotten better. That was in 1989. In 92, they partnered with NASCAR and the North American Fishing Club. If you follow Keystone Light, that's on par for Keystone Light. It's as what they are. In 95, the slogan was smooth, never bitter taste. Remember that bitter beer face? They're trying to get away from that as much as possible. 2002, always smooth, never bitter. We're seeing a theme here, a pattern developing. They've probably been told their beer is bitter, and they're doing everything they can to tell you it's not bitter. That's okay. 2014, I'm sure some of you saw, they partnered with Realtree, so you saw cans that were camouflage of orange and greens and blues and you name it. Camouflage. And just recently this year, their slogan now is always smooth, Keystone Light. So they've come full circle, I guess. Bottled beer taste in a can to always smooth Keystone Light. To me, they've just accepted Keystone Light is Keystone Light, and they are going to lean into it. But that's okay. Now, I like to try to stay trendy, which I'm not trendy at all. I mean, my shirt's it's pretty cool looking. That's about it. But they have this thing on the internet called ASMR, um, where you can just hear things and sensory um, experience. So this is Beer Banter's ASMR portion of the show. That's never a bad sound. I don't care what day it is, what time of day it is, when it is. That's a great sound. Now let's see how this bad boy turns out. Now I will say that is a clean beer. It's got good head on it. Smells malty. Looks tasty. Let's see. Here's to 20 years of never having this beer. And it did not disappoint. Clean finish. It's not bitter, so I guess they worked those kinks out. Still Keystone Light though. It's still Keystone Light. I will say that's a crushable beer. Yeah, hot summer's day, mowing a yard, sitting at the pool. Yeah, 10 of those things go down real easy. Real easy. That's not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was. The first time I tried it, I was a lot younger than what I am now. No palate, no understanding of hops and bitterness and all those different adjectives. Um, so, yeah, interesting. That's an interesting beer. But to close out, I will say from here on out, this is kind of how I want to do things. I want to try beer first off live with you guys. If you've had it before, let me know. Let me know what you think of it. If I totally botched how it tastes, sorry. um, I will say one thing: since I had COVID way back in the day, my sense of taste and smell has never been perfect again. I mean, I still smell and I still taste things, and some things are just a little different. So bear with me. So if I try a sour and I'm like, man, this is sweet. Sorry, that's just how I taste it. But on that note, like I said, this is kind of what I'm gonna do. I've got tons of plans and episodes and ideas, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully it's enough to get you to say, man, I'd watch it again. It'd be cool. I'm gonna make them whether you watch it or not. Hopefully you do. But if you do, please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend about it. This is Beer Banter. I'm your host, Steve Johnson. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time. And remember, it's just a beer. Drink up with your pinky up. See y'all guys later.